Um, we're not expecting Erin at tonight or the next couple months while she's on maternity leave, but Denise should be joining us just a little late tonight. But we will start with the approval of the August minutes. Josh, you were a note taker for August. I know you shared those with me. Did those get shared around to everyone, actually?
I'm pretty sure everybody did.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Just couldn't recall. If folks had a chance to review those, were there any comments or edits to the draft minutes from Josh?
Sorry, I was not able to get to the minutes. I do apologize.
Just for clarity, these were the notes that I took with, this is Joshua Best, with Denise, and then if they were emailed, it would have been within the last few hours. But it was not an email from me because Charles, I just emailed them to you and Denise.
Okay. Okay. So those were not shared around with everyone then, is that correct?
No, I thought that the updated minutes had been, yes.
Everybody is on that.
Everybody's on the chain. Whether they looked at it, I'm not sure, but they were finalized. I believe that Susan had some final edits, and Denise went ahead and added those, and we were all able to view them. It is in the same chain right at the end there. I know, Zoltan, you got them right.
3 hours ago, that was sent to Charles, Carla, Salvatore, Susan, Joshua, Zoltan. Erin.
That was August minutes or July minutes?
Meeting
August
Tuesday,
minutes.
August 13, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, they've been sent out already.
2:50 p.m. today.
Yeah, I have the email right here as well. And you're on the email. Sal's on the email. Susan's on the email. Erin.
Okay. All right.
I have a question.
Yes.
You send it to email? It was email.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
It is. It's Clara54 at AOL.com for reference.
Okay. Thank you.
Just to make sure.
Okay. Oh, yes. Okay. Sorry. I just got lost in the minutes. So those were shared. And so we can, I'll pull those up real quick just so we can having trouble downloading them. Maybe what we'll do, Clara, you said you didn't have a chance to review them?
No, it's been really pressed with many different things and couldn't get to email. Even your email, I didn't get to this morning.
What we'll do then?
I haven't looked at my email since, this one.
Okay, I think what we'll do then is we'll wait for Denise to hopefully join, so we could have full approval of everyone who's been able to review the minutes. So we'll put a pin in that until Denise joins. And if you have just in the few minutes you have with us, Clara, if you're able to pull that up on email and take a couple minutes to review that, you could vote at that point too when Denise joins.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So what we'll do, we'll move into the agenda then, and really tonight the only big agenda item was to discuss and hopefully wrap up our park rapid assessments for the season. So what I was thinking we'd do, although not everyone obviously is here at the moment to be able to share, but I thought it would still be helpful for everyone who conducted assessments to just share a very brief kind of verbal summary of your takeaways or impressions of those individual parks. And, again, brief, right, concise, a minute or two, kind of how you would summarize the overall condition of the park, its maintenance, and then we'll also take a minute after that to look at. I'll pull up and we can look at those the assessment ratings, right? So I kind of sorted through those a little bit so we can see how the ratings of the different parks compared to each other. So anyone want to be our brave first volunteer to share some quick impressions of the parks they assessed?
I could start.
Zoltan?
I could
Yeah,
start.
please.
Okay, so that was some miscommunication. The project management tool doesn't work for me. There's an accounting thing. Josh promised that he's gonna fix it. So I was aware of 2 parks, not 3 parks I need to assess. So I submitted Kossuth Park and Boyd's Park. Kossuth Park is a tiny place. I don't know, it's an acre or less. Downtown area. It has very limited facilities, but even
this conference is no longer being recorded.
Okay.
Sorry.
No problem.
Go ahead.
So I didn't expect a lot, but I have to tell you that that park has no ownership whatsoever. So at one point that was some playground paid by I think the Children's Hospital of Robert Wood Johnson Hospital, one of those, and there is no water, there's no public toilet. Some minimum landscaping was done, not well kept up. It's a tiny place, definitely need more attention. That's in a nutshell. Now the good news is that Boyd's Park, when I went there, I didn't expect a lot, but that was well kept up. So, and it's a huge area, with boat landing place or whatever, all kind of facilities, public restrooms. I checked them; they were in an okay shape. Water, the only major facility issue that I think I found 2 water faucets. None of them worked on the day I went there, at least. But the parking, the trees, the parks, the trees, the turfs, everything well maintained and clean. A relatively small number of people might try to use the facility, like homeless people, I guess. But that was not a major issue. I expected much worse situation at that park. So, and then I learned on Sunday from your email, Charles, that I need to check the use facility. I got a back problem past few days. I could barely drive. I went there, that was not open. So give me a couple of days. Hopefully I could catch up with this and I could walk around again and take a look at it. The use complex on, I think it's on Livingston or no, Joyce Kilmer Avenue. Joyce Kilmer Avenue. I just need a few days to catch up. That's in a nutshell.
I believe you're muted again, Charles.
Okay, thank you. And thank you, Zoltan. That was perfect. Just kind of a concise little overview. So setting a good example for us. Josh T or Josh B, would you like to go next?
I could go next on Bucolic Park.
Go for it.
So Denise and I actually reviewed the park together, so I'm sure she might have some of her own comments. I think that overall the condition of the park was excellent. The porta johns, porta potties looked great as well. Everything was pretty well maintained. There was a very small amount of graffiti. Really nothing to pick about. But you can see, I believe we sent photos separately. We have those located in Asana as well separately. And I think overall, Denise might agree that Bucolic Park was pretty good. So I thought it went well. Again, really small things. There's always room for improvement. Potentially some, safety improvements near the sand area. But honestly, overall, very good.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Josh. And Josh Best, I know you're fresh off of doing one, so you want to speak on, I think you had Feaster and Rec Park.
Yeah, can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Yeah, so overall, I had good, I would say overall, definitely positive 3, 4s, and 5s for the most part. A few notable items, such as like I guess in Recreation Park where I was today, the main thing, which is not I know it's not news to anyone, but a lot of the porous pavement, which is like a real small pebble that's kind of like glued together, I believe. It was utilized as like it's not just aesthetic, but it kind of borders a lot of the sections of concrete, and it is not holding up well at all. So they've done some patchwork repairs, kind of between the permanent building, the bathroom structure, and the kids the playground. So that's not, I'm not sharing anything, you know, they're not going to be able to go out and fix it just because I said it. There's definitely been some repairs done, but they're all kind of, there's some concrete blocks or bricks or things sort of set in to try to reduce some of the tripping hazards. But overall, that's, I would say, something that should be noted not only as a repair worthy agenda item for that park, but as the upcoming parks are being designed and implemented, that I think it would be a wise feature component to avoid if I have any ability to weigh in on that, or at least that it's be different material be used or explored for better longevity. And then in general, good, well maintained, not trash. There's not trash or graffiti, and trash were not an issue at all in Recreation Park. The item related to the landscape plants and trees, I noted that I think it could benefit from more attention. The ones that have been removed or died or broken off, that it'd be nice to replace them and see some more sort of newer, younger plants coming in. But a lot of the lines of trees along the skate park are in good shape, and the Sanford Avenue or Sanford, I think it's Avenue, are really in good shape. And there's a few places that could use attention. There's a retaining wall over by the soccer field that is missing several. It's a very small, low retaining wall, but missing some blocks. But overall, in terms of maintenance and upkeep, I think there's a lot of positive things going. Feaster Park obviously is very new, so not a lot of nothing's run down or worn out or in any sense. It's in good shape. Like Zoltan mentioned, the bathrooms, which I know this is kind of a separate track and issue, but my experience is that it's always, we very seldom or if ever see bathrooms open. And I understand from Sal's perspective, there's, like he said last month, it's an ongoing challenge to keep everything clean and maintained. So I assume that that's why there's more porta potties than open, unlocked bathrooms in the buildings. But I'd be curious what the long-term policy is for that, which I think we asked about once. I guess we brought it up in conversation, but that's sort of the general synopsis for those.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Josh. And Denise, welcome. Just to let you know, what we're doing right now is just asking folks to give some kind of brief summaries of, their high level impressions of, the parks they assessed. So Zoltan and both Josh's have been able to share so far. And I think then I won't put you immediately on the spot, Denise. I'll let you catch your breath. But I can speak on the parks I assessed. So I had Welton Street, Joyce Kilmer and Alec Baker. Um, so I'll start with the one I did most recently, Alec Baker. And Alec Baker has a big caveat, knowing that it's about to get a major upgrades over the coming year. So you know, so obviously keep that in mind. But actually, I was I'll just say as a aside that when I went to Baker Park this weekend, it was the most busy I'd ever seen Baker Park, and I had gone there with some frequency when I lived closer over there. A lot of folks using the basketball courts, kids playing soccer, someone walking on the track. So that was encouraging. The park overall, I would just say, it's kind of worn. A lot of things are kind of older and somewhat worn down, but nothing's in terrible shape. So much of it is still functional. And in decent enough shape. Probably the one maybe exception to that is the playground has definitely seen better days, which is why it will be exciting to have it replaced. That was functional, but it's very old and worn and has a lot of graffiti on it, so not the most inviting. But obviously we know that's going to get a major facelift soon, so that's good. Welton Street Park. I was very disappointed visiting Welton Street Park because this is a relatively new park. 7 or 8 years, I think it was, created as a new pocket park, and it essentially looked to me like it had been abandoned and not maintained. So I'm not sure what to attribute that to entirely, but much of it's a smaller park that essentially has some seating area, some landscaping, a very small kind of playground, play elements, not a full playground. And most of the landscaping was dead or had not been well maintained. So it was definitely seen better days, and would really need full re-landscaping to approximate what it looked like in the first couple of years that it was open. So I haven't had a chance to speak to Sal with it. I kind of wonder what happened if it just was somehow did not make it on the maintenance and landscaping schedule this year, because it sure didn't look like it. And a decent and some trash, some tagging, so it wasn't very inviting. So I know we'll talk about prioritization a little later, but that for me definitely was one that I would think we want to highlight as has some needs. Joyce Kilmer Park is a mixed bag, I would say. Some great things about the park: its size, its trees. It's got a lot of features, but the maintenance of a lot of those features, I think, left something to be desired. And like the soccer court, the baseball field, were pretty beat up. And so, and the big concern that I think has been noted before is that some of the safety, vagrancy concerns there, continue to be front and center, and I think deter people from the park, and it's visible at, more often than not. But it's such a big central park in a heavily populated residential area that definitely want to keep encouraging that park to receive lots of attention, and has some good things like the splash pad, obviously. So those were my three. And Denise, Josh did speak on Bucklew, but I realized I did not speak on Pittman. If you wanted to speak on Pittman, I know you did speak on it last meeting because you had just done it. But if anything additional you wanted to add.
I don't think there's anything else to add. Josh, did you do Murphy Park? We
I
also
didn't.
did Murphy Park.
Yeah, I didn't mention Murphy Park. I could mention that briefly now if you'd like.
Yeah, that would be great because you did all the notes.
Right. There really wasn't Murphy Park being the one over by Susan, correct?
Correct.
Rutgers Village,
Right.
yep.
Yes. I don't know. Denise would probably agree with me. There wasn't much to the park. It wasn't bad. It didn't look super kid friendly. I'm not going to say it wasn't kid friendly. It was kind of, I don't know. There was a lot of construction materials, and I guess we discussed this as well, Denise. We're not really quite sure if the construction materials themselves were on the actual official grounds of the park, or if that was, technically, not the park. But I think that could potentially be a safety hazard for children. And there was quite a bit of them. And again, I think that was my whole reason for saying that it wasn't super inviting. Without the construction materials, I mean, it's a very basic but solid enough park, considering the amount of people, in the vicinity. So overall good, but the construction materials, I think, absolutely have to go, or at least be, hidden or quarantined off, so kids can't accidentally play and get hurt. I think that's my basic commentary.
Yeah, it's kind of a bordered by other things. Like I think there's a school or a building there. I'm not quite sure what the back of the building was. And it's under the high power, the tension towers. So there's not a lot of space to do much else in that park. I don't know what else could come from that. Or could be even with an investment. I'm not sure that there's much else that could be done. But it looked like it was maintained, like the whatever equipment was there looked like nothing looked broken. There wasn't really a graffiti, but I concur with Josh. There was a lot of construction material on the side of the park, going out the entrance, the back entrance, and then across the street from there. So I concur. In terms of Pittman, as we said last month, I think we were particularly impressed that the park maintenance, the mowing and the taking care of the grass and the tree. There's a tree in the center with like plants, bushes around it. It was all taken care of well. Obviously, there is a different issue that needs to be addressed there, which has to do with kind of a tent city. And I think there's a lot of attention on the part of the city on a regular basis to go there. And my intention is to just touch base with community services to talk to them about whether there is any other funding, any other services, any other organizations that might be able to support what the city is doing there. We're trying to do there.
Yeah, thank you, Denise. And I wanted to now share. I think I hopefully should be able to share my screen to show. Okay, so I took the assessment results and just hid obviously the comments and whatnot, so we could boil it down for a snapshot of the average ratings, right? So what you're looking at here is the totals column is, so anything that wasn't in the park, right, that wasn't rated, didn't factor in. So the count column on the right is all of the features or questions on which the evaluator rated that park, right? So I think there were like 30 total. So Bucklew and Recreation were the ones that had the most elements, right, to to rate the smaller tot lots, and pocket parks only had 11, 12, 13. But you can see here then, based on just the average ratings across those questions, I sorted it from the best to the least strong. So this kind of reiterates, I think, what we just shared, but Boyd, Feaster, Murphy, and Rec Park, and Bucklew being in the strongest. Then kind of in the middle, we weren't here. Obviously, Erin wasn't here, so we can't hear her firsthand impressions, but the three that she evaluated, Archibald, Simplex, and Quinton, were sort of in the middle, right? And then middle or a little lower rated, and then on the lower end, Quentin, Joyce, Kilmer, and Pittman, right? So I think again that essentially buttresses some of what evaluators saw in these visits, and probably a lot of what we've seen and talked about over recent months in the last year or two as well, right? So what I like to so well, maybe pause right there and ask just any questions, comments, reactions to this right here.
Can I just clarify what count means? I don't have the survey in front of me that we filled out. I assume totals is points that we gave, like on a range.
Right. So I'll just so for example, this is everything that we hid. So count is the number of questions that the evaluator rated the park on, right? Gave it a rating. So I know some folks, for example, if something wasn't present in the park, they rated it like a 3 or a 1. So I eliminated those just so it didn't factor in, right? So it's only the count is just the number of questions that the park was rated on, and then that just allowed me to get the average rating from the total, if that makes sense.
It does. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on the ratings, and then we can talk a little bit about sort of how to summarize our overall takeaways.
We still have a few open, correct? And we'll add those back in when they're done.
We do, yes. So we have Youth Sports Complex, War Memorial, and Monument Square Park.
Okay.
I think the rating system looks fine myself. Maybe perhaps though, if we're going to send this out, we could add some type of action items lists, or top suggestions. Just if somebody's doing a quick read on this, maybe just pull out the most important thing you see, or most important 2 things you see. I think that might be helpful to go along with the score. But
yeah, absolutely. And I think the score is kind of doesn't mean too much just on its own, other than sort of showing the kind of grouping the parks in best shape and the parks that need more attention. But what I was thinking we could do and discuss a little right now is one is just kind of reinforcing what the ratings say, but okay, these are the parks that appear to need greater attention to maintenance and upkeep moving forward, right? And one thing I noticed just in kind of how this is grouped, it really appears that the smaller parks, like the pocket parks and tot lots, have kind of been overlooked, right? And which is easy to do, right? They're smaller, not as many people frequent them. But I think it probably is easier to think about. Let's make sure the big parks, right, the landmark parks, the newer parks are in tip-top shape. But for those neighborhoods that have those smaller parks or people living by them, I think it can, the aesthetic, the upkeep of those is really important. So I think one thing I would maybe just, as kind of a takeaway is, these individual parks and in general seem to be some of these smaller parks, let's make sure they're getting the maintenance, the upkeep, that they're, really attractive for folks around them as well. So that's, I'd say, one, for me, kind of one priority. The other thing I think we could look at is, and I haven't had a chance to sort of sift through the ratings more closely to look at this, but are there any themes across parks that are jumping out? One example would be kind of this question about bathroom buildings, right? We have not in most of the larger parks have a bathroom building, most of which are not open at most times, right? So I think, I think we know the reasons for that and some of the challenges with keeping those open. But for example, I could say, I could think that one suggestion could be, can we create a kind of policy and practice around more high traffic times, summer weekends, right, holiday weekends? At least can there be an effort to keep those open, right, when we're expecting lots of visitors, and maybe that's something that's more feasible now with the park ranger program, whereas perhaps it wouldn't have been before. That's just an example of one thing I could see as kind of a takeaway across parks, right, from these evaluation visits. Any other thoughts? And I know right now I'm the only one who has access to the full but I'll share that around, so folks want to kind of poke around and see the comments on other parks that other people evaluated, see if there are any patterns. You can feel free to do so.
I'm very happy that Boyd is high up. Maybe I was a little bit soft, but it's still one or two, top 1, 2. So Boyd was my positive experience, and Kossuth with 3.06. Yeah, it has significant issues. So Kossuth could be even a little bit lower than that. Of course, I don't know how Simplex Avenue looks like. And the good news is that they had 1.5 differential, so that means a lot, Kossuth and Boyd. So that's good. That's good.
The other thing that I think could maybe help identify patterns is, I haven't done this yet. I just opened up Unhid, the rest of the columns, but it could also average out the scores on individual questions, right? So, just as an example, and then, do the same thing where, so that would be, right there we have a, one tidy number, at least in terms of the state of paths and trails, right? How we evaluated them across the different parks that have paths and trail, right? So I think that might be one that I could do that pretty quickly and send that back out, right? So we have the summary on both scales, right? Both average for an entire park and averages across the system for those individual elements or questions. And I think that could also help surface, where there are trends, right? Things that are generally being well maintained across the system, and things that perhaps need more attention and upkeep so they can be in their best shape.
Hmm. I think that's really a good point, Charles. I mean, we know that we're going to have improvements on all of the playground equipment. Like that will boost all the parks, and I think that's going to make it look really good across like very consistent across our whole city and network. So I think that's a really interesting way to look at things. Maybe even in terms of looking for funding, we're dedicating funding in a particular year, like upgrade all the benches and seating areas, or upgrade all of the fitness areas. So I think that's a good point.
I hadn't even thought about that, but you're right, Denise. I think, this would be something Sal could clarify, obviously, but from what I've heard in my time on the commission, the city has tended to do, capital improvements and investments kind of on a park by park basis, with the exception of what's coming up with the playgrounds, right? And I think we also helped prompt the thought about looking at playgrounds across the parks. So maybe that's a good precedent for what you're saying, right? Just, hey, we have a lot of very old, beaten up benches across the system, across a number of parks. Maybe an upgrade in benches is a good action item, as an example. I don't know that that's the case for sure, but
right. Yeah, no, I think that will work. And sometimes there's a really good economy of scales when you're buying equipment, when you're putting in like manpower, when you're planning, schedules out. If everybody's doing the same thing at different parks, it actually can be much more efficient than everything in one park. So yeah, we should stay on that. Think about that.
Yeah, I wonder how that will work functionally, but I agree with it from a principal perspective.
you can see I'm just going ahead and applying. Maybe we can have some quick impressions right here. Okay, so I don't want to belabor it too much, but I think we could, I'll try and open this so we can see a little more easily. So just as an example, if we look through, paths and trails, or in most of the parks, 10 out of the 13 that we've evaluated so far, mostly, good to solid. Same with soccer fields, although it seems there's kind of a mix, right? But mostly 3s and 4s. Oh, here's one I caught. So there are no soccer fields. So this example, just Josh and Denise, I'm going to eliminate that scoring just so we're not inadvertently lowering the score. But so that, most of the soccer fields in good to strong shape. But here's an example, I think, just here, and this was borne out by the ones I saw. Generally, the baseball fields are not in as good as shape, I think. And I think it's probably also the case that baseball fields, to be really playable, need more maintenance, especially in the infield. So that, I think that is just something to note, right? Especially if they're not getting as much use anymore. I know we know, for example, that in Baker Park, the baseball field is going to be converted into a soccer field, right? Which makes sense both for the use and the population, the community use, but also maybe for maintenance sake, it's a little easier to maintain a soccer field in playable condition than a baseball field.
Mhm.
Tennis courts, basketball courts, kind of a mix in basketball courts. Playgrounds, kind of in the middle too, and we know that as Denise said, will receive a bump. Fitness station, kind of in the middle. I'm just kind of going to go through and see if there are any ones that jump out as high or low, or if you, that's community gardens, 4, just one skate park, obviously. The one dog park, one boat launch. Splash pads are in pretty good shape, which is good because we know last year for a period they were, several were not functioning. A few places have amphitheaters in good shape. Let's see. Demonstration gardens looks like, and I think there's only a few places with those. And I think Denise, that was something you flagged at a Bucklew Park that after being, an area that was kind of a point of pride for a few years, those have been kind of left fallow, right? Or in the midst of transition.
Mhm.
Here's one that's a little lower, right? So planted areas, right? So kind of landscaped areas. And there's kind of a variety, but a couple places, that maybe acquire a little more attention. That's something that more than mowing requires more like hands-on landscaping that maybe has been harder to sustain. Bathroom
Mhm.
buildings, we flagged.
Right.
Drinking fountains very low, right? So I think that's something to flag too. It's like lots of parks have drinking fountains and very few of them have functional drinking fountains. So there's kind of a question about, should those just be removed? Maybe not a high priority, but benches.
But I think that's a good point. I recall hearing, and I don't remember where, that there was because of COVID, there were some deliberate decisions made about not putting in water fountains. So that may be worth raising as a broader issue. Do we have an approach to that? Is that a good approach? Is there anything that other places have done where it's not as much of a risk? And I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah. But I think even just, raising that even as just a bullet point, right? Something that we noticed to consider.
The other thing I should mention is that in the dog park, we actually have, I don't know what you'd call them, like low pumps for water for people to be able to put water in bowls for their animals. And so maybe that becomes the way it gets addressed, where it's not a water fountain, but if you're bringing a bottle, if you're walking your dog.
Station.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I was going to suggest. I raised my hand, sorry. But yeah, we might want to replace those fountains with filling stations.
Mm-hmm.
That's all. That is all.
That's an interesting idea. And I wonder if, and I think it's probably a broader shift, that COVID helped bring along, but
Mm-hmm.
I think probably more people in general now are sort of hesitant about using public drinking fountains, right? And more
Mm-hmm.
people are attuned to, bringing along a water bottle and having a filling station instead. Would, having a clean water filling station at a park would be great, right?
I agree, but I think it may be abused in the same way that the water fountains are, potentially. I do actually also have to leave. We're approaching that time. I just wanted to let you guys know. I didn't want to just pop out and disappear, in case there are any quorum issues. Although I think we're fine for now.
I believe that there is a filling station.
Yeah, I
at the
think
new
we need
building.
to vote on the minutes.
Yep.
Before we leave.
Yes, let's do that. Thank you. Before we lose a couple folks,
Mhm.
we'll put a pause on the discussion. And Denise, we held off on improving the minutes until you came, and we had extra folks, everyone here for the vote. So let's go ahead. Everyone's had a chance to review the draft minutes that were shared.
Yes.
Any further comments, edits on the minutes?
And just a quick question: would I be able to motion to approve the minutes, even though I put them together?
Yes, you can.
Okay. Without
Go
any
for it.
further comments, I'd like to motion to approve the minutes.
How about a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor of approving the minutes as submitted, say yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Any abstentions? Any noes?
I just want to
Okay.
clarify, Joshua, I thought Josh Best did the minutes this month. You're doing the ones for the current meeting, correct?
Oh yes, sorry, correct.
That's okay.
Apologies.
All right.
Yeah.
That's all right. Just for the record. And thank you, Joshua Best. They were really great. You did a good job. Quick. It's quick
Very
to review.
crispy. But with that, I do have to leave. I appreciate everybody's time. If you have any questions, please email, send me a message.
Okay. Thank you, Josh.
Thanks. Josh.
Thank
Good
you,
seeing
everybody.
you. Okay.
And for the record, I'd like to say our guest at the last meeting, his summary and his was very very good. I really appreciate it, and would be nice to have him on with us, join us.
And
as
you're
a
Here
speaking
member.
again,
about
visiting. Glenn, that's you.
Glenn. Yes. Oh, hi,
Yeah,
Glenn.
I'm so happy.
Oh.
It's really like you were out there in love with the park, and it's really, really,
Oh.
really was really good.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so
I'm-
much.
I'm not as used to getting compliments, so. But thank you. That's very generous of you. I appreciate that. I just love the idea, and I love that part. So.
Yes. And sorry, but I have to bid farewell. There's a ton of things I was doing. Okay. And thanks
Okay,
thanks to everyone. And Charles, I'll be in touch and I'll get those. So we do need photos as well, right? For the
Say that again.
I do need to take photos of the park.
Yes. If you can, that would be ideal.
Okay, because I did visit but didn't take photos. Okay, thank you very much. Have a good night.
All right. Thanks, Clara.
Yeah, Clara.
Thank you.
Okay, so since we lost a couple folks, we'll I think just kind of wrap up this this conversation, and graffiti is obviously an issue in some parks. Pretty wide spectrum of cleanliness, right? But I think more parks good to very good on cleanliness, and a handful of parks, right, that have issues around, public drinking or drugs or vagrancy, that we will highlight specifically to those. But those are mostly isolated to the two parks, right? Joyce Kilmer and Pittman.
Mhm.
But I'll send this around, right? Just kind of that summary, so everyone can see that, and if make any comments that trends or patterns that jump out to folks, and maybe I'll also send it with, based on our discussion today and things I know, what I think a starting point for our bullets for our kind of executive summary for the city, right? What are the highlights, right, that we want to pull out and bring to their attention. But I'll share that. Folks can add to that and react to that, and once we get and then we'll have those three final ones to incorporate as well. So I'll wait, because Zoltan and Clara, I think, are going to be tackling those soon. I guess I'll wait until we have those final ones to incorporate before I send out the summary. Okay. All right. Well, Glenn, since you're here, and Clara did compliment. I think it was a very good discussion and a nice thing to think about. Is there anything you wanted to share with us? Just has there been any further conversation with Sal or anything else you wanted to bring to our attention about the update from last month's meeting, the conversation about the tree identification project in Bucklew?
Yeah, thanks, Charles. No, I was actually hoping, although Denise and I had the Democratic Committee meeting, I was hoping to catch Sal here to run something past him. So no, not yet. But I'm going to go there and see if I can hook up with Sal at the park, at their shed. The only thing I have to update, and this is just as sick as this may sound, this is just something I really love doing, and it's a carryover from my time at Rutgers working on dendrology, which is really the study of trees. And I'm just walking around the park identifying trees. Believe it or not, it's not as easy as it seems, although 90% of them I know. But the ones that you don't know are really tough. And we're getting towards winter, so you lose the leaves, so it's even tougher. And we don't have any flowers, which is the best identification trait. Some fruit, a lot of acorns. But what I've been doing is actually mapping the trees to what is just now a piece of paper in a notebook. But I'm literally, drawing roads and drawing landmarks and putting little dots and identifying where the trees are. And I've done a fair amount from Huntington to the access road. So if you enter the park from the corner of Huntington and Easton and you make a right at the circle where the sign is, that road goes all the way out to College Ave, right? No, I don't know how familiar you guys are with the park. Anyway, I've done everything between that road, and I don't know what it's called, and Huntington, and the path that goes, the baseball field is on the left, and there's a path that goes straight to the gazebo that has trees on either side, and I've done all the way up to there. So I've done kind of a rhombus, I guess. I don't know what shape that would be. I didn't like geometry anyway. So I'm just doing that personally, but I feel like it makes sense to do. It can be something if Sal's group doesn't have a map of what species are where for the park, which I want to check with him on. This might be of some value to him or to a project that you guys take on in the future. And I just enjoy being out in the park. I was telling Denise, it's just great being out in the park, and I love looking at trees. And it's a working on a puzzle, trying to figure out sometimes what these things are. So to me, it's fun, and that's may seem strange, but it's really great. So that's it. I have a couple pages of hand-drawn maps that might be of values at some point going forward.
That's a fascinating project, and I even wonder. I mean, with the tree identification, not to overcomplicate it, but I could see it being really interesting to, convert that hand map into, oh gosh, what's the
online?
Josh, help me out. What's the term for like the mapping GIS?
GIS, yeah, like ArcGIS, ArcMap, that type of thing.
Right.
Yeah, I used to have a license. I don't anymore.
Right, or something that if even like if the individual identification tags or placards also could direct people to a park map.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Would be really cool, right? So you're not just looking at individual trees, you can kind of zoom out and see, oh, this is where I can go find this grove of X tree.
Right. And Denise and I even had a discussion, and this is something we're working on with the pollinator garden, of having QR codes, maybe on the placard. So I don't know how far Sal wants to go, and but yeah, this could be a larger project, and it doesn't have to be isolated to Buffalo. It could. I know Boyd is really ripe for this, although a lot of the trees are the same, but it's just I don't know. I think it's interesting to know what you're looking at. And a lot of people actually are. I get people that walk up to me and go, "What are you doing?" Because I'm just staring up at the tree. I'm looking up at the leaves with my notebook and a pencil, and they're like, and I said, "Oh, I'm trying to identify this tree. Is it a black oak or a red oak?" And sometimes that's difficult to tell. And they're like, "Oh, really? That's fascinating. What kind of tree is it? How can you tell?" And I actually, have interaction with them on their interest in it. So very cool, I think.
Well, yeah, I think with Sal, often the best bet is to try and catch him, there at the parks office,
Yep.
and yeah, definitely. I think we all look forward to um, you know hearing next steps and helping it move forward.
Yep. I'll get on that. I'll try to touch base with them.
Charles, this is Josh. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Sorry, I my Wi-Fi switched to uh, data plan for a second. I'm not sure if I can speak, but I heard you mention my name, and Glenn, yeah, I'm happy to chat with you more about the RTIS, basically web databases for tree surveys, because we do them all the time, and I work with a lot of people who do them with, tens of thousands of trees, depending on the situation. So it's a very common industry standard practice, and it's extremely useful to track work and new trees placement, removal, disease. So yeah, you're on the right track, but yeah, definitely
Yeah.
would be valuable to have, and I'd be happy to
Yeah.
leverage what you're doing to make that more, visible, tangible.
Yeah. Josh, can I ask you a question? Because when I was pursuing my ecology degree, I had a copy of a license for ArtMap, and I was able to work at home, on the labs. But that expired, and there's no reason for I don't want to buy a license. I can, but I certainly wouldn't get one from Rutgers because I'm no longer a student there. Do you have access to ArcMap or ArcGIS, and you would be able to do this mapping, and would it be appropriate in a professional setting? Because I don't know, can you use your work license to do this? And I don't know.
There are options. It might be
Okay.
that we don't use ArcGIS, but that we use there are different softwares to use. Um,
Okay.
so yeah, it's a good. I definitely think it's worth pursuing um,
Okay. Great.
on various levels. Whether it would be as cut and dry as you're describing, or we'd have to improvise with something free for the interim, and then I know that Jason Grabowski uses.
Oh.
Tree plotter, I think, which is
Yeah.
the Planet Geo software. So there are a lot of different, you know, um, commercial levels that you could go with,
Okay.
but there's also just free versions to utilize. So if we could do the same one that Rutgers has, they have Cook Douglas and everything mapped, and then I think they have College, either part of College Ave or Livingston. They have significant areas mapped, but New Brunswick has never been interested in doing it, and so
Right.
they have a ton of students doing it all the time, all on campus, but nobody's doing it in the city, and we could,
Yeah.
have to
And
build a bigger kind of patchwork the whole thing together. But yeah. Anyway, that's what I'm supportive of what you're talking about, and I think we could definitely
okay.
get some mileage out of it. So thanks.
Yeah, two quick things. One is I think ArcMap has an online version that's free, if I'm not mistaken. But also, I know Jason personally because I TA'd his course. I took it. I took dendrology, and then I TA'd it for him. So he and I would explore Bucklow and the eco preserve over in Livingston, walking around for hours. Like, which trees are we going to quiz these students on? So yeah, I'll reach out to him and see what his suggestion is. That's a great idea. Thanks. That's all I got.
All right. Well, thank you, Glenn. Are there? I think we can then move to our final habitual items. If there are any other communications or reports regarding parks or commission business that anyone would like to raise.
No. Mm-mm.
Are there any public comments? Okay. If not, then I think we can move to adjourn. We are down to under quorum in any case, but can I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll move.
Okay, I'll second. All those in favor of adjournment?
Yes.
Aye.
Bye.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Good to see you all.
Charles, just quickly, I wanted you guys to finish your official business before I ask, but can you hang out with Denise and I for a minute after everyone leaves? It's unofficial.